Right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Desk Gaming. So I want to cover some hard counters for Tyranids, and I want to go over how you, as a Tyranid player, how you can try to soften up the hard counters for Tyranids. And we're going to jump into a skirmish. I've chosen Necron and Eldar to showcase some of their units that really hard counter Tyranids. So when I talk about hard counter, we're talking about tactically on the battlefield, particular units that can really hurt your tactic gameplay. So here's Tyranid's strengths, right? They're a swarm faction. They're very good at flanking, enveloping your target. They can move through cover quite well, and they can have very, very high movement, especially with the high Tyrant move bonus. They are a little they are explosive, but they can be shut down pretty quickly on map if the map has ridges or cliffs or lakes. So when you're fighting, you never want to be fighting in a narrow position with Tyranids. Because most of your units are melee. Your range stuff is usually like range 2. You don't really have a range 3 source. So they're not really meant for like narrow corridor fighting in Gladius map. They do fairly poorly because like for instance, this place has cliff. So they could just block off these two hexes, and then your melee units could only hit 3 spots. So if they have something super tanky here that can survive 3 shots, then they're able to, if it's another faction with good range, they can range you and sort of easily win that fight, even if you have overwhelming numbers. So you know, that is one of their really weaknesses. Is you, as a Tyranid player, you prefer to fight in broad open battles like this, or be able to swing around and attack your opponent's flank or behind. Now, where the problem happens, we're just going to add upgrades for each race here. The problem happens is when you are up against, like, say Necron brings in a monolith. So these are like super units, but super tanky units. What makes it difficult for Tyranids, let me just go to the monolith. So what makes it difficult for Tyranids, it makes that first point that I was getting across, that you don't want to be fighting battles in narrow choke points, lakes, or cliffs. And lakes, when I talk about lakes, is there even a lake on this map? Doesn't even look like there is. Oh my gosh, there's, okay, because this is the Ard mod. So yeah, just to clarify, so right now I'm playing Ard mod with the Sentry mod enabled. So Ard mod is a mod out there that balances it for PvP. So his mod actually takes out all lakes. So I know I mentioned lakes. So the only thing really, yeah, it's the cliffs that cause more narrow maneuvers on the map. But yeah, lakes would be the other thing. They're like blotches of water if you don't play the R mod. But yeah, so what makes it tricky is like when you're dealing with monoliths or Wrath Knights. Like these are super. Let me go to a Wrath Knight here. These are super tanky units, and most of your stuff is let's move this out. Yeah, most of your stuff is melee or range 2, so it's really hard to deal with these type of units. Can we move this out? All right, let's just end our turn. I just want to get there. Go, you mighty. So you might say, how, yeah, so how do you deal with, you know, Like, even if I go to some of my big damage dealers, so I have all upgrades, it doesn't look good. When these units come out with Tyranids, so one of your key staples would be a Carnifex, like in the mid game. Carnifex. So you can see those units don't do, even with the 50%. Yeah, it's not doing a whole lot. I mean, look how much HP. So, and then say if you do get to your Terrano, so your kind of first super unit as Tyranids, in my opinion, is the Trinofex. Now, when I say super units, I'm talking about units with like very high HP and very high damage. So the nice thing about this is 42 health, so a little bit more health than this, and more armor. And then if we were to hammer it, yeah, so 16, a little bit more. But the point is, it can survive more, and it has range 2. So the range 2 is huge. Tyranids has very low range 2, which helps, gives you more damage per. So here's the thing: your weakness as Tyranids is fighting in choke points and then fighting super units, like such as a Wrath Knight, such as a Monolith, because you just don't. You can see like the damage is not there, and what's going to happen is you're not going to be able to kill one, and then your opponent will get their turn, and because they're playing these different factions and they have much better range options, range 3, range 2, and probably deals more damage than you, they're able to focus fire your super unit or your units and then win these battles. So really what it boils down to, it's not rocket science, because these are pretty much your tier 10 super unit is a game changer. I'll show you the damage. But there's only really two methods that I see. I just want to bring it out. So this is your tier 10. Yeah, so this is definitely, this thing don't care about fighting in cramped spaces. You can see half the health of a Monolith. And almost, well, not half of the Wrath Knight. But definitely a game changer. I think so. Yes, your goal is ultimately to get to tier 10 as quick as you can to get your ultimate super weapon. But you know, it'll take some time. The best counters that I've seen is first would be zones. Okay, so what the zones are good for? They give you a little bit of a range option, but you're really getting them for the Proxima or Paroxysm. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's minus 50% accuracy. So as you can see, if we were to do look at that damage, the Gus Flux Arc almost kills the Carnifex. Let's see here. Yeah, half health. So, but yeah, you can see on the super unit, because I think there's like reduced damage on it. Yeah, feel no pain, 33%. So that's why it's doing not a lot to it. Yeah. Again, so that's the ultimate counter. Your mega super unit, but you can see how much it does even to your first super unit, which is the Trinofex. Almost half health. But if we throw a Proxima, now we do the damage, and now it's only 9.6, so a lot more reasonable. So what it really boils down to, boys and girls, when you're playing Tyranids, you want to build zones when you're facing like, well, pretty much, okay, right now in the meta, if I play with the Russians, we play on Ard mod, and the meta right now is pretty much because it's bigger size maps, and on the mod cities take less damage. Encourages economies and encourages a lot of high science builds. So I really think you should incorporate zones. I mean, if you play with people that are notoriously get these super units out every game, uh, zones are your strong counter, because what you proxy it, and now it's not doing kill damage to your front line. So now you can just keep, pushing, whittle it down with your own damage. And then like, so here you can see, look at that damage just from Wrath Knight, plus he has a free stomp move. You can see even the stomp does quite a bit of damage. But again, if we proxy, proxim, look at the damage now. So much more respectable, right? And let's see what the stomp damage is. Yeah, very little stomp damage. So that, again, and this unit is only 60. But yes, you have to go through the upgrade pass. But I would say this is your saving grace right here. Build 4 of them in your army, and you could easily just proxy, and it lasts for 2 turns. So you're able to keep the debuff up at all times. Don't try to get these killed. They're more support, so keep them back. They're range 2. You proxy it, and there you go. The other small counter, or to help you with, because this is the real problem with Tyranids, is dealing with these really huge tanky, high damage units. The other thing you could possibly do is a later game Prime. Tyranid Prime. Now, I'll show you what you're getting a Tyranid Prime for. I wouldn't get this early. I would get it later in the game, late game. You don't care too much. Like, your main thing is, if it's in the front line, it will level up to 6. Just keep it a little bit, not too crazy in the front. But your goal is to get it to level 6. When it gets to level 6, it gets a skill called Exploit Weakness, which has a 3-turn cooldown. Okay, so this is cool. So you can see the damage, 16.8. Move this guy. Oh gosh. Is that a cliff? Oh yeah, so it's a cliff. I didn't see that. So I just want to show you why this skill is so good. So say you... stupid Overwatch. Okay. Yeah, so say you do your exploit weakness on this. So right now, turn effect 16, 18, 14. Let's do exploit weakness. And now we've almost doubled, not doubled it, but a lot more. So you got that. So you can see the damage went up considerably. Almost one shots with the Giganto. And let's see if... Let me just... he does pretty good damage too. If you put a concealed and a sword, you'll get a lot of influence with Tyranids. And then I would say Power Gauntlet. Yeah, so without the upgrades or items, with the upgrades, a little bit more damage. But the key part is this ability, right? Oh, so we do the buff. He has a buff for damage, so that does 16. But then if you're able to combine that with exploit weakness, almost do half. But the real thing is, yeah, these... So the knights actually are pretty, just, they're crazy. They have this ability called Scatter Shield. Or what is it called? No, Feel No Pain. They have Feel No Pain. I think that's the big corporate. Feel no pain. And they got a lot of HP. Like, look at that HP. So yeah, this one, but yeah, you can see it does decent damage though. But yeah, this is very common. If you're playing against Necron, you're gonna see monoliths. Not again. It's really boils down to zones, and then you want to just make zone and do damage so they can't like retreat out. This one can jump out, but the important part is monos. You're able to capture them. But this is the key ingredient, really, is zones. So that's all I wanted to get my point through with this video. Is, you know, if you're playing Tyranids and you're getting wrecked by these like super units, the real answer, in my opinion, is zones with Proxima, and secondly, maybe Tyranid Prime, if you can afford it. It's not bad. It's also a good anti-hero unit, but definitely zones is super good. If you go up to attack with zone, they don't care about armor, so they do pretty good damage. 16. How about the Wrath Knight? Yeah, not so much, but yeah, Wrath Knights are actually probably Tyranid's worst matchup in the game. They can hit air, they hit all the ground vehicles that do a lot of damage. But if you put the proxy on it, you're good. All right, so hope that this is going to be a short video guide, but this would be, I would strongly recommend trying to corporate zone, especially if you're against Necron, Eldar, and especially against Eldar, because Wrath Knights will definitely be used against you because your units are all ground based. So this is almost like a must. I didn't show you guys how much like the range stuff do with Tyranids. So you have Temple Guard. Let's just go to it real quick. Where are they? Turbogun, Terminators, Termagants. Well, Carnifex, Exorcines. So Exorcines is kind of like a range monster for Tyranids. But yeah, they cost a lot. But you can see though, the main part is really, again, that's your weakest thing with Tyranids, is fighting in choke points, fighting against very tanky single model units. And your only sort of counter to it, in my opinion, really, is your gigantic super unit or having zones to just debuff, and then you just whittle down the front line. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap it up. This is a quick video. Hope you guys like. If you like more of these little videos on hard counters and counters, let me know. I will produce more. Thanks, guys.